Good morning, stitchy friends and quilty friends. I want to thank y'all for joining me this morning. I'm going to try to give you a continuation of the sewing room tour. This is going to be a little hard because this time I'm going to try to do it and walk and talk at the same time. That gets a little difficult at times. We did do some improving on the lights, and I'll go into that a little bit more as we get into the video. It's going to be a short video, but I want to thank y'all for liking and subscribing. My subscribers have gone way up. Thank you so much for subscribing and liking and commenting. And I had several questions from the last sewing room tour. Where do you cut your fabric? So hopefully I can show you that today. I want to encourage you all to continue to read your Bible. We will continue with our Bible study. We will continue with our Bible study when I upload the next Stitchy Tube. I also need to get busy and do a Quilty Tube because I have lots of things to show you. Things that I've been finishing, things that I'm almost finished with, and you'll see a little bit of that, but not much. So I'm going to get on with this and let y'all know that I'm going to have to get busy and make some project bags because it looks like we're going to have a giveaway before long. With over 800 subscribers, the numbers have really gone up really fast. I want to thank you again for liking and subscribing. So I'll go ahead and get this turned around and see what we can do. Hopefully it won't be too shaky. Okay, we're entering into the sewing room again. I added the hook up here on the door so I could add this purse that I designed. It was just a little whatnot purse. It's with the Mary Englebright fabric. I always loved her line of fabric. I wish I could still find some. I guess I've always been an old soul. I am old now, but I've always been an old soul. And then that little scissor, paper piece scissor, I had gotten in a mug rug exchange. And then that little sewing machine with the bee on it, I made that. I believe that's a Shabby Fabrics pattern. And I made that several years ago. All right, I mentioned to y'all before, I have the serger. I mainly just use it now for serging my cross-stitch fabrics. I've had it from back in the day, making clothes. And yeah, once my grandkids started growing, which I have some babies again, but I don't want to get back into making clothes. So those days are over as far as I'm concerned. This is the machine that I was telling you that I brought in from the church. This is a 2144 FAF. It was an embroidery machine. All it will do now is sew straight. I enjoy sewing on it. I've had it since 2003, I believe. And it stopped working about 5-6 years ago. And all it would do was sew straight. I really can't do anything else with it, but I'm thankful that I can still sew straight. I mainly sew Quilts of Valor on that machine. And Quilts of Valor is quilts that our church gets together and we make them for veterans. And it's the highest award that a civilian can give a veteran. So we get together and we make quilts. And there's some more Lori Englebright fabric. My grandmother had a stool like this, but hers had broken. So we found it at an antique shop. So Edna is stored right there. I've had to put her down temporarily. I've got to take her into the doctor and let her have a checkup because the feed dog somehow doesn't seem to be working, and I'm not understanding a whole lot about that. I can get machines set up, but as far as working on them, I'm no good. And my storage is still there. I haven't changed it. I found a few more of my awards back from 2015 and 2017. Right now, my awards are up there. I doubt they're going to stay up there. But until I can figure out where to put them, I had them put up in a closet. And I added a light over here because the light in the ceiling, if I'm standing in front of the little ironing mat, then I kind of maybe cast shadows, which I'm standing in front of it now, so it's really not too bad, but you can kind of see a shadow right here. And this is some of the finishes that I need to fully finish. This is the Lori Holt. She believed she could, so she did. And then I finished the Farmhouse Christmas series by Little House Needleworks. So I'll just show you a little bit of that. And I'm going to throw them on the floor. I'll have to pick them up when I get finished. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. I have a tendency to do that. And then this quilt block, I really didn't think I was going to enjoy doing this, but it was rather fun. So I look forward to doing some more cross stitches with quilt blocks. And I love the red truck. I changed a lot of the threads in the houses because I didn't want a bunch of white houses. So I wanted the snow to be able to stand out. And I'll go into more of that with my stitchy tube that I do. And then that's the end of that. Let me put this back up here. And then that's just a look into the woods that I get to look out. And this is just a little storage bin. And I had some people asking me, what do you use your air compressor for? My air compressor I use to blow out Edna, because she is a mechanical machine, and I'm very careful how I blow it out. I can reach up underneath so nothing's going up into the machine. On occasion, I will blow out my Juki, but there again, I have to be extremely careful because you don't want all those fibers going back up into the machine. Sometimes I'll have to open up the bottom and then blow it out really good. That's what they do when they work on the machines, but the machines are open, and that's what I have to do so that I don't ruin the machines. But I have to keep mine oiled. And then here's a tree that I had showed you that was gifted to me at Christmas by a sweet friend, Debbie, and I updated it for Valentine's. So I just got a few little Valentine clips and stuff from Dollar Tree. Nothing major. And then there's my shelves again up here. And I used to use that up there a lot when I hand quilted. I can't do that much anymore. My hands don't allow it. But I still want to quilt one more quilt. And then there's some of my storage that I keep up there. And that right there is a battery operated pin keeper. And it'll spit the pin out to the very edge so you can grab a hold of it easy and not get stuck. And it works good. I did that mainly when I was having to do a bunch of pinning on my quilts and stuff. And that quilt back there was done with a challenge at my quilt club. And then the 2010, the Juki, is the main one that I quilt with. It'll quilt anywhere from a small mug rug up to a king size quilt. And I do have some videos showing you how to quilt a king size quilt on a domestic machine. Although most of the time, all the quilt will fit in here. It doesn't look like it, but I can make it fit because I'll do half the quilt and then flip it around and do the other half. It's just a mind thing to get your mind to be able to quilt in reverse of what you did do. And then I keep glues and stuff like that in that cabinet. And that's just some scraps that I keep up there. And then that is a quilt that I'm working on that is the flannel. So it's where you do sew the X in it. It's the rag quilt. That's it. And it's not that fun for me, so, but I do need to finish it. And then there's some of my storage for my quilts that I do. And then my thread storage. And then there's some Lori Holt and vintage fabric that I've had, that I picked up fat quarters here and there. There's embroidery thread storage. And then this chair my husband had gotten me for Valentine's Day about 12 years ago. But it's been a good one. Now I have to have an added cushion in it, and it helps raise me up a little bit. And then here's the Janome. I got this when I had two of my machines, the FAF that I showed you. They told me that when they looked at it that it died. And another FAF machine that I had, it would just make a bunch of noise for several minutes before I could actually start sewing with it. And my husband went and got me this Janome, and that's the day he broke his ankle. And that's been about 4 or 5 years ago. And then there's the PE 800 Brother. It's an embroidery only machine, so I use that to make my quilt labels. A friend of mine turned me on to this machine. She said, Deborah, you got to get this. And I looked it up, and it was only $500. And the day after I bought it, it went up to $900. And within a week, it was up to $1,200. So she helped me out. And that quilt right here with all the chickens, that's a fat cat design. I'm hoping to trim it out into a barn. So hopefully I can get to that before long. It's been up on my design wall for a long time. And then here is the Vintage Housewife. I finally got around to doing the sewing machine block. So now I just need to do the large apron block and then put this thing together. And I've already showed you the cross stitch right here. I need to fully finish that. All right, I'm going to walk you into the other room. And this is a doll, a bear that I made for my grandmother, my dad's mother. And when she passed away, my dad gave it back to me, so I keep it up there. And that was back in the 80s. I think you can tell by the fabric. And then that's a wall hanging that I made. And it's done with free motion satin stitch. But I did use that FAF before it died and made the embroidery for the bottom of it. So that was fun to do. And then we're entering into my storage, my fabric storage, my fabric cutting area, and cross stitch storage. And this bin right down here has pieces of batting that I use for mug rugs, wall hangings, and cross stitch. And up on top, I have things that I need to fully finish, and I have 2 quilts that I need to bind. So I will be showing you those as soon as I can do a quilty tube. And this is just some of the wall hangings that I made. A primitive wall hanging. Do is to the flower what gentle words are to the soul. And this is just something I came up with. I didn't have a pattern for it. And then you can tell that this is fabric that I fussy cut, and I just did a satin stitch around it. When doing applique, I was really big in doing satin stitches. And this little wall hanging right here is a quilt as you go that I had taught at a local quilt store. And I added an applique at the bottom of it to match some of the fabric that's in it. And then this is just some storage that I have. It's got, back here is color coordinated little shoebox bins of different color fabric. I have orange in one, navy in one, red in one, etc. And then I have some silk flowers and some cross stitch stuff in here. There's some of those styrofoam balls. I was going to make ornaments sometime or another, and I never got around to it. And then here is some of my quilt patterns, cross-stitch patterns, and then cans of spray-based. And if you can see right back in there, I have about 12 boxes of these things right here. These were given to me. A lady that worked at a place called me and said, hey, we're giving these away. Do you want them? I filled up my car and gave away most of them, but I did keep about 12 boxes. So I shouldn't have to worry about any kind of spray base for a long time. And then here is where I press my starched fabric that I'm getting ready to cut. I have a bottle that I keep in here that has some spray starch. I mix up my own using Stay Flow. And as you can tell, there's a night light right here, so that when I plug in my iron and I walk out of the room and I'm shutting down for the day, if I didn't turn it off, the night light will tell me. Once the light goes off in the overhead light, once that light goes off, that one will come on and say, oops, you left your iron on. So all I have to do is push the little button to turn it off. And I usually keep my iron plugged in, and that way I'll know if it's left on. And then this little wall hanging right here, a friend of mine, Stitching Scotty, she did this and she said, Deborah, you love chickens. Let me give it to you so you can fully finish it. So I fully finished it and I turned it into a wall hanging. And if you haven't checked out Stitching Scotty, go check out her YouTube. She's got a lot of fun finishes. She's got a lot of old FFOs that she shows. And she keeps a bunch of them in her rocking chair. And then this little thing is something that I made. And I'll insert a picture right here so you can see. But back in the 80s, I used to take cardboard and I'd make these little whatnot boxes, and they would have a lid. And they went really good. My husband took them to work and he would sell them. And then I'd make fans out of wallpaper and sometimes add fabric and lace and silk flowers. And people loved them and they bought them. Now this is something my grandmother made. She made this back early 90s. When she passed away, I got it. I love keeping things of hers that she had around. And then up here is just some storage. There's a can of spray based, which I do majority of my spray basting outside. I take my table outside, but in case I do any kind of spray based inside that's small, I use that cardboard box up there and open it up and put it in there. And there's no machines in here that the spray base can bother. So be careful. Don't use spray basting in your sewing room because it will mess up your machines. And this is where I keep my fabric storage. I got the idea from Lori Holt. I keep fat quarters or larger in here. And I just keep it all color coordinated. I got the little chalkboard tabs from the Dollar Tree and just wrote on them. And then down here is some more scraps. There's a green bin that I've already been through. It's almost empty, not quite. I need to save some in there for applique because sometimes I need larger pieces. But now I need to go through the blue, and then I need to go through the beige right here. This is overflow that I need to find homes for, or I just bought a yard of fabric and I need to put it somewhere. I just put it there. Right here is some backings that I have made. And I can insert a picture here to show you what they look like. And underneath it is where I've started cutting up fabrics into squares and strips, usable pieces, just like Lori Holt does. That is just some fall fabric. And then we're getting into some Christmas scraps. And then there's some backings and there's some placemats that I made that I haven't fully finished yet. So they're stuck there. And then I just have storage underneath here. And right now I have my computer. It's about 12 years old, and we're trying to update it to where I can use it some. And the printer will be going in the other room. We went by the computer store, and he had that nice printer for $60. It came in with no ink. He put the ink in, which cost $50. He only made $10 off of the printer. But now I'm printing stuff 14 pages or so a minute or something like that. And my other printer took over 2 minutes to print 1 page. So up here I have glue sticks, I have small ribbons, and I have my buttons. Underneath the table I have my larger ribbons in storage. And then I have my blinds to where they're kind of closed at the bottom, leave them open at the top because I have storage in front of my window. And this cabinet right here is all for cross stitch. It's got the cross stitch finishing stuff, you know, the washers, the magnets. There's some needles, more washers, double-sided tape, etc. And then we get into my thread storage. My son made this insert. We bought the cabinet at Hobby Lobby. My husband got it for me last year for Valentine's Day. And then my son made all the inserts for me so that I could organize all my threads. And the 2 drawers down at the very bottom has got my fancy cross-stitch bags, you know, aka Ziploc bags. And then the next one's got a few patterns in it, not many. And then this basket right here has just my scraps. And you see I sew fabric on either side. And I may add fabric down here because I'm a hoop or a scroll frame stitcher. So I'm going to be doing a lot of ornaments this year to use up all these scraps because I don't like to waste. And here's some things that someone had given me. And I'm going to pass on the bib because she's going to have her first great-granddaughter. And since my youngest granddaughter is a year old now, she's outgrown that bib. I got the bib after she was born. And then this is just some finishing that I need to fully finish. And then some kits that I have kitted up. And then up here, I keep my box for haul and stitching magazines. And there's a couple of quilting magazines up there. And some more rulers. Rulers that I don't use very often are right up there. And then I have rulers down here. And some mats, smaller mats. And I have my mat board in that box right there. And then I have storage in here, which is not cleaned up, but that's where my frames and stuff like that go for cross stitch. See, it's a hot mess. And then these little pin cushions, this was given to me in a pin cushion exchange. And then these little things right here are pins that I got at Hobby Lobby. And then I got the beads at Hobby Lobby and glued them on here with E6000. And these are what I use to put on the design wall when I'm cutting out Lori Holt stuff. I wanted something that was going to stick, and the little tiles that It's So Emma has at Fat Quarter Shop, they slid around. So I wanted something that was a little bit, you know, where I wouldn't lose them. And that silicone spray, I may spray it on a rag and wipe the base of my machine down so that when I quilt, the fabric glides, because I don't use any kind of gliding sheet that most people use. And then we're coming over to another design wall, and I'll talk about those blocks right there in just a few minutes. And if I'm cutting out bulk fabric yardage, I can cut out several different fabrics at one time. My husband got me this Quilt Cut 2 system. He got it about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been a really good system. But when I have to cut out just one block at a time, then I put it on a regular mat that I had gotten at Hobby Lobby, and I got it 50% off. It was only $17, and it's 24 by 36 mat. So, and it's double-sided. So go check that out. It's a pretty decent mat. I was afraid it might not hold up, but it's holding up well. And then this is just where I keep my storage for my rotary cutter, and a must-have rotary cutter. Now, I have issues with my hands. So all these, they're good to have, but I don't use them very much unless I'm just, if I'm trimming or squaring up a quilt, then I use the 60mm blade. And the rest of them is for cross stitch. But a must-have is the Quilter Select rotary cutter. If you have any kind of issues with your hands, this will take the issues away. I had to wear a hand brace, and I'm talking all the time because of my wrist and my thumb. And during a shop hop, they did a demonstration, and they said, come try this out. And I picked it up. I said, there's just no way. This thing is weighted. It's going to hurt my hand even more. They said, no, try it. So let me tell y'all, yes, it's weighted, but I have no more issues with my hands cutting. And that's one reason why I had to stop working at a quilt shop, was because it was just ruining my hands trying to cut that fabric all the time. I really loved working there, but it just didn't work for me because of my hand issues. Now, if I had that rotary cutter, I'd probably still be working there. But it's a high dollar. It's a high dollar rotary cutter. It's about $70. But believe me, it's well worth it. And these are the pins that I was showing you in the pin cushion. So they stick in the foam core board, and I'm able to, you know, where I don't lose them. I can lift my board up, and I don't have to worry about them falling. And with my boards, I know the Lori Holt boards, she just uses batting on there. Well, I had a hard time trying to clean off that batting. It was wanting to tear. So what I did was use flannel. So I put the batting down, and then I put a layer of flannel, glued those down, and then I put the binding on there. So if you're having any issues with those boards because you can't clean them, put some flannel on there. It works good. And then here's the Riley Blake challenge, and I'm doing them with scraps. I'm doing them with blue and white, and then I'm going to do multicolor. I've got to catch up this weekend because the new block comes out. So I've got 2 more of the multicolor to do. And I keep those fabrics down here underneath my table, my cutting table. And this is a cutting table that will fold up, and we roll it outside so that I can sandwich the quilts. And then this chair is here because I have a light box, and whenever I'm doing applique, I can sit in this chair and I can trace my applique, and it makes it a whole lot faster for me to do. All right, this video is getting a little bit longer than I wanted to. I wanted to also encourage y'all to please continue to read your Bible. We will continue with our Bible study as soon as I get the next Stitchy Tube up, hopefully within the next week. So y'all take care. I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I haven't got around to painting this yet. My solution to this was just to pin up a bunch of quilty things or stitchy things to hide the holes that the grandkids made. So, oh, let me tell you about this light. This light right here, it's bright. It will fold. So if you want it directional, you can make it directional. If you want it up, you can put it up. So my room's a lot more brighter than what it used to be. And as you could tell with my sewing room, it's like daylight in here. And I love it. So be sure to check out those lights. I will insert a picture so that you can see it. I got it at Ollie's and they were only $7.99 each. So right now they work good for me. They don't totally cut out the glare on my glasses. But for the money, hey, I'm well happy. I'll just have to check in on getting anti-glare glasses when I go get them remade after my cataract surgery. So y'all take care and God bless.